بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والحمد لله الذي جعلني من أمتي سيد المرسلين خاتم النبيين طه وياسين أحمد محمود أبو القاسم محمد ومن المحبين عترة الطاهرين لعنة الدائمين من الآن إلى يوم الدين على أعدائهم أما بعد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وقول الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هل ننبئكم بالأكثرين أعمالا الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا صلوات. Mu'mineen, we come to the culmination of the days of Adha with this night which is known as Shab-e-Ashur, the eve or the night of Ashur. It is said that this was a night when the companions of Abu Abdullah, along with him, were all gathered together awaiting the martyrdom for the next day, and they were deep into the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was a night of remembrance, it was a night of reflection. And Imam makes some famous speeches whereby he gives his companions a choice. The choice was very stark. Thereafter my blood, you can save your lives, and I allow you willingly. And the answers that he got, and the choices that the companions of Imam alayhi salam made are historic, inspiring, and for us exemplary, that we follow the footsteps of those who were willing to give their all for the truth, for justice, and for what Imam stood for. Indeed, as the Azadar of Sayyid al-Shuhada, it is also incumbent upon us to have the same spirit of sacrifice. Whatever we are able to give in the way of Allah to ensure that we make this world a better place, that we are able to work for the oppressed, that we raise our voices when there is an injustice being done, are traits where we need to sacrifice something. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that these days, and especially the last 10 days that we have all gathered here together, gives us the inspiration to follow in the footsteps of Imam alayhi salam and his companions. Salawat. Mu'mineen, we have come to the 9th presentation of this particular series, where we began with a niyyah and the power of intentional living, and we moved on to various facets to see what we could do to become better human beings, to be inspired by the message of Karbala. And it is the school of Husayn, the University of Husayn, that gives us all an opportunity to share with each other, so that we do not just seek change, but we actually seek transformation. That we have moved on to a higher plane of thinking, a higher level of action, and a higher level of commitment for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a movement, mu'mineen. So we say that do not move with Husayn in history, but move with him in reality, revolution, and change. Tonight we remember baby Ali Asghar. It reminds me of a beautiful Urdu couplet by Najm Afandi, a great poet of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, where he said that Gehware Beshir pe roye to bahut. Gehware Beshir pe roye to bahut. Upon the crib of Ali Asghar, eyes were flowed with tears. Gehware zindagi mein aankhein na khuli. That if we did not open our eyes within this crib of life, then what have we done if our eyes have remained shut? And this is a tribute that we pay, that this value, the tears that we shed, give us a brief flight, as I've said before, that spiritual moment with Abu Abdullah and the spirit of Imam Husayn alayhi salam in his free nature, in his faith, in his piety, and his understanding of Tawheed. Because, mu'mineen, our souls were created to soar. The human being has been blessed with a spirit that can go higher than that of the angels. And that we have been created in the best of molds, in the being the best of creation. What do we do is illustrated by Maulana Rum in this very insightful tale that he gives, that a royal falcon, a beautiful bird, was caught by an old lady because that falcon did not look like her chickens that she's used to, because they have huge talons and big wings. What she did was that she clipped the talons and the wings because she could not see anything beyond the chickens that she had. And sometimes we shortchange our souls by clipping the wings of our souls, that when those souls could actually soar in spirituality, we bring this down into mundane things and that we do not think. The idea of reflection. I was talking to a brother just before the majlis began, and he gave such good wisdom to say that let us go to the Qabristan, just sit there and reflect. Let those souls soar, reflecting on the people who lie there, to say, what did we come here? Now that they are gone, what did they take with us? I still have some time. What can I do so that my spirituality and my soul actually soars to a level where we are created to soar through the heavens and really find our place near the throne of Rahman? Do we want our souls to be at the throne of Rahman, or do we want it to go to the abode of Shaitan? Because these are the choices that we make. These were the choices being made this very night, on the night of Ashur, by the companions of the Blessed Prophet. On the other side, even in the camps of the enemies, there were people who were thinking. And you have the examples of Janabe Hur, who comes along after the night in the morning that he comes across. This is how we have those souls soaring. So the relevance of the Azaf of Abdullah today is whoever is with Husayn cannot pledge allegiance to an oppressor, cannot excuse an oppressor or justify their oppression. Now we are not just talking about the big political angles. In every family, in every home, in every community, in every organization, justice must prevail. We must be the upholders of justice in our own home, that there is balance in the home. If there is a party that is being oppressive in any particular place, from the smallest to the highest, it is the call of a Husayni to say and stand up and say, this is not right. That I will stand up for it. And therefore, Mu'mineen, as we cry, and indeed, we must cry upon Imam Husayn alayhi salam. We say that shorten your tears when they are only tears of history, and let them flow when they are tears of the oppressed and the downtrodden human beings. Let us feel that empathy through the rest of the year until we come back on this first Shazah again and say, yes, I did lift a finger. Yes, I did send $1. Yes, I did spend my time to ensure that I have done something for my fellow human beings who is not as blessed as I am. This truly is the idea of understanding when Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam had said, when he said, Kullu yawmin Ashura, kullu ardhin Karbala, that every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala. It is not only the day of Ashur, tomorrow that we commemorate. It is every day that we have a responsibility to ensure that we are not in the camp of Husayn. We cannot be in the camp of Husayn. And if our personal lives are free of deceit, you remember the Imam alayhi salam has said, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam has said that if you have this deceit and bughz in your heart, then you are not one of my Shia. That my heart is free of deceit and malice and hatred towards others and free of corruption, then at a personal level I am making a contribution, then I am in the camp of Husayn. If not, how ironic would it be? And I began this with this ayah that I recited to say that, shall we show you the losers? Those whose efforts in the affairs of this world have been lost, and what is more is they think they are doing good deeds. If we are not doing this on a personal level, and then we are shedding tears upon Imam Husayn alayhi salam, how ironic would it be to say that sitting in the camp of Yazid, I am now shedding tears for Husayn. That cannot be. At a level of society, as we come together, while we cannot pledge allegiance to an oppressor, we must also stand up for justice, for whatever is right. And there are many times we come across where there is a principle in front of me, be it in business, be it in communal relations, be it my dealings with my brother or my sister, and I look at and say, where does my interest lie? And I will make an action according to whether I will benefit or not. Well, Imam Ali alayhi salam teaches us, and the Quran also talks about that be from amongst the establisher of justice, even if that justice is against you. That you set a bar for justice, and whether it benefits you or not, or even if it harms you by speaking up, then Aimma alayhi salam have taught us that we must stand up for what is right. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Mu'min, there is still plenty of space, so let us make space for those who will come after us. Salawat. So here is another couplet which again says so much. Sometimes language and the beauty of language needs to be understood. This is another Shair of Ahlul Bayt. And let me also say as a rejoinder here that the couplets written in the Madah, in the praise of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, in the Urdu language, surpass those which have been written in Arabic and Farsi combined. This is how Azadari transmitted from Kufa and Sham onto Iran and then over to the subcontinent, and the manner in which Mir Anis and Dabir and others and Najam Afandi and whoever have taken this. Sadly, the next generation is losing the language sometimes, and they're losing such a huge treasure. We encourage that we try and keep with our culture, because it is that culture which becomes a receptacle where we are able to pour the essence of our faith. It is difficult, but an attempt must be made to see what we can do. This is a beautiful couplet by Najm Afandi. He said, Haqiqat-e-abadi hai maqam-e-Shabbiri. Haqiqat-e-abadi hai maqam-e-Shabbiri. Badaltay rahay andāze Kufio-Shami. When we really look into this couplet, it tells us so much about the state that the spirit as shown by the rulers of Kufa and Sham is always changing. It is always relative. Badaltay rahay andāze Kufio-Shami, that they actually change. This thing changes. It tries to gain through fraud, dishonesty, political expediency, and maneuvering against whatever, while the truth, Haqiqat-e-abadi hai, maqam-e-Shabbiri, that the place of Husayn, the stand of Husayn, is always steady. It is of the truth, it does not change. What do we learn from that, Mu'mineen? That when it comes to the aza of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, and when we talk about the people of Kufa and Sham, and in particular the people of Kufa, the aza, the tragedy of Karbala passed right through their eyes, and yet they were stagnant, they were afraid, they were pushed into not doing anything. The aza of Abu Abdullah, the tragedy of Karbala, passes through their society, and yet there is no change in them. Are we the same as the people of Kufa? That the aza of Abu Abdullah passes through us, and that we have no change? That we have not been able to make a difference? That we have been able to become better human beings through the azadari of Imam Husayn alayhi salam? This is something that only we, each individual, can judge. To say, am I of the people of Kufa of the same type, where azab passed and there was no change? Or am I amongst those which have been impacted and inspired by the azadari of Imam Husayn alayhi salam? Salawat. Amongst others, Mu'mineen, a Husayni is one, and this is really a reflection of what we have talked about in the last 10 days, because this is the last night that we can reflect on this, that our lives, as we have said, are but part of a larger story. There must be something bigger than our own lives. There must be something bigger than this rat race that I'm living in, where I wake up, go to work, come back home, and go to sleep and have no impact on society. Society has no impact upon me. Our lives must be part of a bigger story, because Maulai Mutaqiyan Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam has said, and I quote, that socialize with people in such a way that when you die, they mourn for you, and when you live, they desire your company. This is what Imam Ali teaches us. And therefore, time, as I talked about time a few days ago, and this is a summary of what we are doing, to say if we can only remember this, that every day is a day away from birth. We celebrate birthdays. The Zoroastrians are the only faith that we know who actually mourn their birthdays. They don't celebrate them. The idea is that every day that we live is a day further away from birth. Every breath that we take is a breath closer to death. The time that we are going to use, the Blessed Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and I quote, that live as you please. You will die someday. Love what you may, but someday you will be separated. It's a moment of reflection. This is a rare moment of reflection, that we have been given that blessing of this first Shahzah, that we can sit together and we can reflect. Where else can we get an opportunity where we can reflect in this way? So, in the end, to say that a life which is well lived, a life of a Husayni, and this is what we've been talking about in the last few days, is moral consistency, compassion, also a courage to be unique, and a commitment to excellence, and above all, an attitude of gratitude. If we can remember this, the standing up for the right is moral consistency, compassion, feeling for other human beings, a commitment to excellence. A Husseini does nothing but it must be the best, because I'm an exemplar for the rest of society. Whatever I do, it must be a level of excellence and an attitude of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's given me so much. Inshallah, on Friday night, in the last lecture, I will cover the idea of gratitude in some detail. But tonight, just quickly look at that moral consistency is about being clear. It's about being honest. It's being about authentic. Who you are speaks far more loudly than anything you could ever say. It's your actions. If you walk the walk, then you'll be recognized. If you only, talk, then people will look at you and see what you're really about. Then we're looking at compassion. And we've talked about this. To help and empower those, around you. It's almost like a sun which gives away all it has to plants and trees, and then in return the plants and trees provide sustenance to others with the growing vegetables and so on and so forth. It's a cyclical thing where one benefits the other who will benefit somebody else, and finally it'll come round. This is the meaning. And then be unique. Take courage to be unique. Do not be, and particularly to my young friends, I say, you go to college, you go to school, there is a lot of peer pressure. There are many other things vying for your attention. Be unique. Take the courage to be unique. If somebody is taking you in a different direction, do not walk the path of least resistance, that I will follow the others. I don't want to be the odd person out. If everyone's not praying, I will take the road to say, well, I'll pray on time. I'll make sure that I'm making my ibadah on time. If my peers are not doing it, doesn't matter. I am unique because I am answerable to Allah. Do not be afraid of taking the road less traveled. Sometimes it's very easy just to follow convention. Well, question. We talked about critical thinking. That whatever we do, while we continue doing it, we must also find out why we are doing it. And once, we have understood that, then there may be a road that we may find which is less traveled. And do not what is easy, but what is right. This is the way of a Husseini. And finally to say, commit yourself to excellence. We're not saying commit yourself to perfection. Let's not make a mistake here. Commit yourself to excellence in everything that you do. Do not seek perfection, because perfection only belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And an error, the quest for excellence is not a quest for perfection. It's only Allah who is perfect. And an error, all of us make an error. An error, remember, will only become a mistake if you don't learn from it, if you do not repeat it. An error is a teaching moment for us, and if you don't do it again, that means you have learned. But if you continue to do it again and again, then certainly it is a mistake. And I've come to the final portion of this, and I would like to sort of take some time that we've looked at all this. The impact of this is on community and family, because these are the two most important items in our lives. Within the family, the role of women as a mother is considered as one of the most sacred tenets that underpin our faith. When we look at societies, and when we look at the role of women in Karbala, here women are depicted as warriors fighting against injustice. A message for women to fight against oppression and to work for justice is particularly poignant in Karbala. And we are all able to see and personify the quality or the attribute that Bibi Zainab Salamullahi alayha exudes in Karbala. Every revolution has two things. It has a message and it has blood. The shuhada gave their blood, and it fell upon the women led by Bibi Zainab salamullahi alayha to actually ensure that the message flowed. Mu'mineen, the first Shahzad that we are sitting here today is the blessing of the work and the passion of Bibi Zainab salamullahi alayha when the first Majlis-e-Adha, the first Shahzad was established right in the house of the enemy. This is the beginning of Azah, so that that message continues to reverberate across all continents, all cities, all towns on this planet today. This was the beginning of what was done by Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. Mu'mineen, let us also look at that when we are talking about Bibi Zainab, when we are talking about women, many a times we become very patronizing. It is as if the hijab is the end all and the be all of everything that a woman needs to do. Hijab, mu'mineen, is a symptom of a bigger cause. The concept of hijab comes out of a natural tendency. It is iman. It is a basis of understanding that brings hijab. It is not hijab that is going to bring iman. We sometimes do this in a reverse way, that everything becomes the end all and be all. We are shortchanging and we are patronizing women when we talk in that language, and many times men have a tendency to do that. We need to take this talk and say that the hijab is an icon of a much bigger philosophy and a much bigger thing that our mothers and our sisters can do, have done, and will do for our communities. And this is the idea of being able to empower women, where the azah of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam enables the modern woman to identify with the role of Bibi Zainab in Karbala. This is the identification. Just as the Lady of Light, Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha, became a symbol of courage and the strong and powerful role as an angered wife when Imam Ali's right was taken, or outraged daughter of the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that she stands up for the right, is an inspiration for all of us. And also, particularly for our women, to say that this is not a passive role. The idea of women engaging in a society is not a secondary role, it is an equal role with men and women. This is a misnomer sometimes, and people, the outsiders, see Muslim women as being oppressed, for example. Nothing could be further from the truth. And we have the examples of these great ladies who actually show that women are empowered. It demonstrated a defiance of the limitations assigned, by culture. At that time, for a woman to stand up in the court of the Khalifa and demand her rights was going against the grain of that culture at that time. But the Lady of Light showed that when there is a principle at stake, gender does not matter. Gender should not matter. There is an equality between men and women. The whole idea is to transcend gender expectations and regulations. And many of our communities culturally seem to be at a place where we do not give due respect to our women. We shortchange ourselves when we deprive half of our population from decision-making possibilities, from engaging fully in the work of the family and the community. And this is something that we need to think about, because we are raising a generation in this country where a believing woman, an educated mother, has the best opportunity to imbibe her children with faith and moral values. It is the mother who plays the biggest role. At the same time, it does not mean, mu'mineen, that the fathers abdicate that role to merely being an ATM machine. That I am going to provide, for my family financially, and that's where my responsibility ends. It does not. The whole idea of saying that I will work long hours for my family, I will provide, and the rest will be taken care of by the mother, the father has an equal responsibility in bringing up the children. A boy comes to his father in the evening when the father has come back and says, "Dad, how much do you earn an hour?" And the dad gets a little cross. He said, why is he asking me this question? And he said, "Go back to your room. You shouldn't be asking me such a question." After a little while, the father felt bad that he had spoken curtly to the son. So he goes back. And he said, "Son, you asked me a question. How much do I earn an hour?" He said, "I earn $50 an hour." So he said, "Dad, can you please lend me $25? And the father, to humor the boy, says, "Here is $25. What are you going to do with it?" He goes, he opens his little drawer where he's got his savings. He pulls out $25. He counts and says, "Father, here is $50. Please spend 1 hour with me." The estrangement, because we are so busy that we do not have time for our children, particularly the fathers. We need to really understand the engagement with our children. And that is something that needs to be done. That I have to see, the father says, I have to see that all my children are well fed, obtain a good education, and are given a good start in life. Well, the father's role goes far beyond. First of all, he is a pedestal of the exemplary leadership in the home. If this is not an Islamic home, if this is not a home where the prayers are said on time, if this is not a home where Islamic values are there, if this is not a home where there are no Islamic books or there are no such artifacts which reminds our children that they are part of the Muslim Ummah, then there is something wrong with that home. And then we say, well, our youths and our young are going away from faith. The first place where we can have that attachment with our youngsters, with our children, is right in the home, where the home is an Islamic home, where the home has azan coming out, where the home has a level of piety, and this exemplary leadership is to be set by the father. That the father is a role model for the child. Leadership does not imply the right to be overbearing, but certainly leadership means that there is discipline in the home in the most kind manner. Leadership in the home means that there is no backbiting on the dining table. Leadership means that there is husn zan, there is appreciation of what is happening around us. Leadership means within the home for what mother and father is to see that the blessings of Allah are being counted, and that we show a level of compassion, a level of gratitude, and a level of upright upbringing, which is what is going to make a society a Husayni society. Salawat. Well, I mentioned this yesterday, and in continuation of this, that Shaykh Ustad Mutahari has written a lot about raising the next generations. And this is an important topic, because there is this question that we face to say, what can we do to engage our young people with the community, with our faith, with our center, and with the family? And Shaykh Ustad Mutahari says, first of all, that we must completely remove the thought from our heads that this new generation must be guided by following the methods used by previous generations. Which means the way you were raised, I as a baby boomer, as I was raised, may not be applicable. The methodology may not be applicable. The essence of faith, honesty remains the same. It is eternal. Good behavior remains the same. That is eternal. But the methodology in terms of how I'm going to train, how I'm going to behave, is going to be different. And this is where we need to think as parents, as adults, to ensure that we are able to connect. And what do we do? For example, Muslim youth in North America in particular. And if you ask them, and I talk to many of them when I travel, to say they are torn between three things. First is their nationality, that I'm a Canadian. So that's my nationality. I live here, I was either born here or I took up citizenship, whatever it may be. Then it is his Shia faith, that I have a faith. And then they also struggle with keeping up with the culture of their parents as to where they came from. Wherever you may have come from, originally, we're all, we have come from some part of the world or other. Most of us would not be natives of this land. So the culture of their parents' origins. How we create futures for them that are meaningful for them, where each of those things, their nationality, their faith, and their culture, all have a balance in their lives, which means some work. If we miss out any of these three, because they're struggling, and I don't have time, we could do a workshop on parenting to say, how do you do this? And parents need to think as to what is happening, what challenges are there in the minds of these young people who sit in front of us, as to where they are being torn between different ideologies. The bottom line is that if we want to help them, and this is for preachers, this is for community leaders, this is for mothers and fathers, to say that the essence remains the same. How you do it depends on the culture, depends on how the society works. The first thing is surrender to His will. Truly imbibing and understanding what we call Islam. To accept Allah by heart, within one's heart, which is called Iman. These are the terms that we use every day. Do we really think about them as to how they're applicable? That surrender to His will, accept Allah by heart, believe in the oneness of Allah, which is Tawheed, act with justice, with His Adala, and then lead a life of goodness and morality, which is Taqwa. If we are able to exemplify this in our homes, in our societies, it's not a microwave approach, my friends. You cannot put a youth in a microwave and press, saying, now he needs to be made more Islamic, and in 30 seconds you'll get a more Islamic and a more attuned youth. We need to work at it. The ingredients are those that I've just mentioned, and the ingredients that we should not have is talk of hate. We tend to have this, that as Muslims, we are very quick to say we are against X and we are against Y and we are against Z. Do we ever say what are we for? Each time it is a reaction. The idea is to avoid talk of hate. Yes, we will speak about the injustices being done in Palestine. We will speak about injustices being done to Muslims in all parts of the world. But that is not a talk of hate. We do not hate the human beings. We hate the system in which these human beings are suffering. The fiqh gymnastics. We go through so much into what I call the gelatin discussion, and I alluded to this, the moon discussion, and all these discussions. Yes, they're important. But there are bigger things to talk about than the fiqh gymnastics that we have. And negative aspersions that so-and-so doesn't come to the mosque, he must be an atheist or a Gnostic or whatever. You don't know why the person is not coming to a mosque. Why are you becoming judgmental on someone else? You do what you have to do. Let Allah, judge. The whole concept, mu'mineen, of Islam, where we are talking about husn zan, is a beautiful concept. I related this from Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam when he was talking to Zuhri. Husn zan is to think well of the other person. Husn zan is to give somebody the benefit of doubt. Even if you see something, you give them a benefit of doubt. Husn zan is that you do not pick this up and send it to 50 other people. That you do not say forwarded as received and send out stuff that you don't even know what they are talking about. The whole idea is husn zan, thinking well of each other. When you have people thinking well of each other, then there is aman in a society. That there is goodness, there is brotherhood. And if our children are brought up within the idea of husn zan, then they will relate much better to us. And then let us shift that paradigm. make space for a fresh vision. Our children are living in a different era. Once again, the concepts, the essence remains the same. The methodology may be different. I use PowerPoint to convey my message. There was a time that a much better articulated message could be done from the mimbar by the imagery being painted by the speaker. Things change. It's how you deliver. It's how people are used to doing things. The methodology changes, but we need to make space for a fresh vision. Also accept that given the great education that our young have received in these lands, the corporate ethics that they get where they work for the corporate world means that they may have a better handle on the road ahead. They may have understood the society better than I, who have had the West thrust upon me when I had to come here involuntarily. You know, as Shakespeare said, that, some people are born great, some have greatness thrust upon them. We have people where you have the West thrust upon them because they had to come here. There are some who are born in the West, and there are some who came here for education. They acquired the West. Let us accept that they have a better handle on the road. And as elders, whether we are running a family business, whether we are in the corporate world and we are recruiting younger people to come into our corporations, or whether we are taking on younger people, volunteers, into running our jamaats, move away. My appeal to my elders and my peers is, move away from the driver's seat and don't do any backseat driving. Let our young make their own mistakes so that they are able to learn. Yes, you provide a guiding hand. You provide certain parameters, but allow them to swim. Don't be a backseat driver, and allow them to the privilege of making the mistakes just as we did. And this is how a society progresses. We need to make sure that we are aware of the times, because Imam Jafar Sadiq al-Islam has said that a person who is fully aware of the time in which he is living will never be overcome with bewilderment of the things around him. And finally, we say, let's leave a legacy, all of us. As we said, we go and reflect in the graveyard, in the Qabristan. What legacy did the people who are there now, what legacy did they live? You look at their covers, you look at their graves, and you say, he was a great man. He did this for me. He touched me in a certain way. I look at another grave and I say, oh my God, he was such a great servant of the community. That is a legacy. As Maulana Rumi said, after our death, do not search for us in the tombs and the graveyards, but search for us in the hearts of the people that we inspired. This is a legacy. So in conclusion, an engaged Muslim community that is at ease with its existence in the land we have chosen to call our home is something that we need to strive for. We are here, Mu'mineen. The myth of return, and there is a whole host of literature and research being done by immigrant communities coming to the Western world, and the myth of return that they've never really burned their bridges back home, are communities that really don't get settled very well. Those who have broken that myth of return, that there is no going back, there is no going back. This is a transformation. I can't go back to becoming a caterpillar. I am a butterfly flying in Canada, and this is where I'm going to die. Then you become a community which is at ease with itself. And if we are able to make sure that our neighbors understand our faith, not through our vocalization of slogans, but through the acts that we do for them as neighbors, as to what we were taught by the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, then we will be at ease. And we see that over the 3 generations. We are worried what will happen to 3 or 4 generations. I say that we should not be worried. If we are going to inculcate those values in them, those values will remain. So, we live in North America. Time to shed some of our own baggage to lighten the load for the next generation to be Muslim and Canadian in every sense of the word. And that is a tall order. And the sooner our leadership, our elders, our mothers, and our fathers buy into this concept, then inshallah we will progress. And that indeed is really the meaning of the intizar of Imam al-Zamana Ajjalallahu Farajata. You know, what is a deeper meaning and the significance of awaiting our Imam? One of the requirements is that as we wait for his reappearance to establish justice, our role is to see that we will not be able to create the perfect society until the Imam comes, but that we create the least imperfect society that we can within our families, within our communities, and within our cities, and wherever we live, that we strive to create the least imperfect form of society. And that is something that will be determined whether we are in the camp of Imam or are we in the camp of those who are opposed to justice. That, mu'mineen, is a litmus test. So, as we end, we have a choice. Just as the companions of Imam made a choice, we can go back to our routines, default to our old habits, and fall back into wherever we were before we set on this first Shahzad, or we can embark on a new beginning to strive to be even better for the next year, and that we draw up a personal plan tonight saying, Ya Husayn, I will now make a plan, and I am making a ahd to you that this is going to be a better me when I sit next year on this first Shahzad. The choice is yours. Do I intend to make a commitment to those objectives, or do I wish to continue complacently paying lip service to the martyrdom and to demonstrate? Am I going to be a better person today or next year or when? And that's something that we need to understand, because it was on this day that this istighasa on the day of Ashur was said by Imam Husayn alayhi salam. He turns in 4 different directions and he says, Hal min nasirin yansurna. Hal min nasirin yansurna. Is there a help? Is there a helper who will help me? Mu'mineen, who was he calling out to? All the companions lay on the burning sands of Karbala. Who was he calling out to? He had already talked to the enemies. He had read the Quran to the enemies. He had tried to remind them that if you do nothing, at least think like free men. And none of them had responded. None of them, apart from Hazrat Hur, had responded. And so who was he talking to? Mu'mineen, he was talking to us. He was talking to us, every one of us, on that day. Because, he was talking to every person of every age and every gender. Because if you look at it, Karbala itself was not a matter of age or gender. In Karbala, there was those who showed how to move with Husayn, that for Habib ibn Mazahir, age was not a criteria. The youth of Qasim ibn Hassan and Own Muhammad was not the criteria. The bravery of Abbas and Ali Akbar was not the criteria as to how old they were. Nor was the innocence of Asghar, and nor was the bravery of Bibi Zainab Salamullahi alayha and other ladies in the tent of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Mu'mineen, tonight we remember an incident in the life of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, an incident in the history of Islam which is unparalleled in its tragedy and in its sadness. You know, there used to be this passion plays in Iran, there still are. And people would dress up as different people and the entire tragedy of Karbala would be enacted. And there was nobody who would be willing to take the role of Hormala. And they actually get a non-Muslim to come, and they paid him to say, all you have to do in this passion play is lift your hand, your bow and arrow, and just point. You don't even have to shoot the arrow. Just point. That's all you have to do. And the man asked to say, but what is this all about? And when it was explained to him that what we are enacting is what Hormala did to baby Ali Asghar, he throws the bow and arrow. He said, how can I do such an inhuman thing? Mu'mineen, if a non-Muslim could not even lift a bow and arrow, hearing this story, can we imagine what the state of that father and mother would have been when they were carrying that baby out to the battlefield? Mu'mineen, Bibi Rabab says that the baby Ali Asghar has thrown himself out of the crib, and Imam says, I will take him to Yazid's army. Surely they will not possibly deny this little infant a few drops of water. Imam comes to the army and he lifts him up and says, this child has done you no harm. He is dying of thirst. I am asking for a few drops of water for him. And there was no response. Mu'mineen, we know from history that Imam pleads again to say that if you are afraid that when you bring Asghar any water that I will drink from that water, he said, look, I will put him on the ground and you can come for yourself and give him the water. Mu'mineen, there was not a soul that would move to do anything. And he said, and finally Imam says, Asghar, oh Asghar, my son, show them how thirsty you are. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Janab Ali Asghar turns his head towards the soldiers. Imam raises him up in his hands and he opens his mouth and he brings out his dry tongue and moves it over his lips. Mu'mineen, the ultimate sword had been unsheathed, and there was a movement within the army of the enemies to say, and the army commander says, Iqtal Kalam al-Husayn, cut this third lecture of Husayn. The soldiers were so moved that there was almost a tumult within the army. Mu'mineen, I cannot really recount as to what happens after that. Mu'mineen, Hurmala does what he does. It's very hard to actually eloquently even express what Hurmala did. Mu'mineen, suffice it to say that imagine that arrow being shot, and what happens? What does Imam Husayn see? He looks down at the neck of Hazrat Ali Asghar. He sees an arrow. He sees the neck, and then he sees a smile, and until he could see no more. Our Imam begins to feel faint. For a moment everything went dark. He could not see. There was total silence over Karbala, broken only by the sound of the gentle waves of the Furat. Even the enemy appeared to be stunned. Mu'mineen, slowly, Imam Husayn turns round and looks at the baby in his arms. He looked at the sky and he prayed that, Ya Allah, give me the courage in this most difficult moment of my life. No prophet was ever subjected to a test as severe as this. Mu'mineen, Imam alayhi salam, as we know, and we will do this action tomorrow, that Imam alayhi salam walks back and forth 7 times before he actually goes. He stopped and thought that he must take the child to his mother. He again took 7 steps towards saying, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Once again, perhaps, his eyes may have met with those of Bibi Rabab. Again, the Imam seemed to lose his courage and walk backwards, repeating Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Imam did this 7 times, forwards and backwards. All the time, perhaps, the mother's eyes may have remained transfixed on the child, and every time Imam was reciting Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Mu'mineen, finally Imam buries the body of baby Ali Asghar into a shallow grave, perhaps thinking that by burying at least his head would not be severed. Alas, what do we see? What do we see after the day of Ashur, when the bodies were decapitated, we also saw the head of baby Ali Asghar on those swords. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. مومنین امام جناب علی اصغر کو لشکر کے سامنے لاتے ہیں، اور جب جناب علی اصغر نے اپنی پیاسی زبان منہ پہ پھیری، ارے لشکر میں تہلکہ مچ گیا، لوگ منہ پھیر پھیر کے رونے لگے، یہاں تک کہ عمر ابن سعد کو کھایا کہ یہ لشکر بدل جائے گا۔ کہا اقتل کلام الحسین، اے حرملا حسین کا کلام کو قطع کر دے۔ ارے عزاداران حسین، حرملا نے 3 بل کا تیر کمان میں جیب جوڑا اور بیشر کی طرف چھوڑا۔ عزاداران حسین، امام علیہ السلام کے ہاتھ پر بچے کا گلا چھید گیا، حسین کا بازو بھی زخمی ہوا۔ ارے اولاد والو، ذرا دل پہ ہاتھ رکھ کے سوچو کہ جس باپ کے ہاتھ پر بچہ اس طرح لہر ہو جائے، اس مظلوم کا کیا حال ہوا ہوگا۔ امام نے اپنے ہاتھوں سے گلے کا تیر کھینچا، باپ کے ہاتھوں پر آنکھ کھول کر بچہ انتقال کر گیا۔ امام نے خون کو لے کر اپنے منہ پر مل دیا اور کہا اسی طرح سے میں اپنے نانا کی خدمت میں جاؤں گا۔ ارے مظلوم امام علی اصغر کی لاش ہاتھوں پر لیے کھڑے ہوئے، ارے غیرت سے قدم نہیں اٹھتے۔ مسلمانوں انصاف سے کہو کہ اگر رباب نے پوچھا کہ آقا میرے بچے کو کیا ہوا، ارے مولا کیا جواب دیتے؟ بس آخری جملہ مومنین سن لیجئے کہ جب جناب مختار کے سامنے ابھی کل ایک رپورٹر کو گرفتار کر کے لائے تو مختار نے پوچھا کہ او ملعون، یہ تو بتا کہ روز عاشور تیرا دل میرے مولا کی مصیبت پر کبھی بھی نرم ہوا تھا؟ تو اس شکی نے جواب دیا کہ امیر، ایک وقت ایسا آیا کہ میں نے تمنا کی کہ کاش میں بھی مر گیا ہوتا اور حسین کی حالت نہ دیکھتا۔ جناب مختار پوچھتے ہیں کہ ارے بیان کر کے وہ کون سا وقت تھا؟ اس نے کہا کہ جب علی اصغر علیہ السلام کے تیر حرملا سے شہید ہو چکے، حسین علیہ السلام لاش کو لے کر آہستہ آہستہ خیمے کے طرف چلے۔ میں دیکھ رہا تھا کہ حسین کیا کر رہے ہیں۔ او امیر، میں نے دیکھا کہ فرزند رسول کچھ راستہ چلتے ہیں اور پھر رک جاتے ہیں اور واپس آتے ہیں، اسی طرح 7 مرتبہ چلے اور واپس چلے۔ مجھ کو آپ کی اس حالت پہ تعجب ہوا۔ شاید میں نے وہ دیکھا کہ ایک بیوی دروازے پہ کھڑی ہے اور میں سمجھا کہ شاید یہ بچے کی ماں ہوگی اور اپنے بچے کی راہ دیکھتی ہوگی۔ اے امیر، مظلوم امام کی اس بے کسی پر وہ بے چین ہو گیا۔ مختار نے کہا شکی آگے بیان کر۔ میرے مولا نے پھر کیا کیا؟ اس نے کہا پھر حسین خیمے کی طرف نہ گئے اور میدان میں آئے، وہاں سے قبر کھود کر بچے کو دفن کیا۔ مختار رونے لگی اور کہا میرے مولا نے بہت اچھا کام کیا، کیونکہ جانتے تھے کہ شہزادے کی لاش سر کے نیزوں پہ بلند ہوگی تو علی اصغر کا سر اس میں بچ جائے۔ یہ سن کر ابو خالق نے کہا امیر، ایسا نہیں ہوا، میں نے اپنی آنکھوں سے شہادت حسین کے بعد ننھی سی قبر کھودی گئی، ارے لاش کو نکال کر معصوم کا سر کاٹا گیا اور امام کے ساتھ نیزے پہ بلند کیا گیا۔ اِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ۔ ماتم حسین۔
آتے ہیں اصغر علی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، موت کی ہچکی لگی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، آتے ہیں اصغر علی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، مٹھیاں دونوں بندے سینے کے اوپر دھری، آنکھیں کھلی کچھ رکھی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، مارتے ہیں دست و پا ڈھونڈتے ہیں سر ننا، جاتے ہیں پیش خدا خون میں نہائے ہوئے، آتے ہیں اصغر علی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، من کا ڈلا ہے ہوا دم بھی ہے اکھڑا ہوا، سینے میں الجھا ہوا خون میں نہائے ہوئے، آتے ہیں اصغر علی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، موت کی ہچکی لگی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، آنکھیں کبھی کھول کے شہ کی طرف یاس سے، روکے ہو کیا دیکھتے خون میں نہائے ہوئے، گل ہوا ہے بیبیوں آتے ہیں اصغر علی، آخری تسلیم کو خون میں نہائے ہوئے، آتے ہیں اصغر علی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، موت کی ہچکی لگی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، جان کے زندہ پسر بانو چلی لینے کو، روکے کہا خیر ہے جان پہ کیا کر گئے، آتے ہیں اصغر علی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، موت کی ہچکی لگی خون میں نہائے ہوئے، گل ہوا اے بیبیوں آتے ہیں اصغر علی، آخری تسلیم کو خون میں نہائے ہوئے، اے مومنو جب خون میں ڈوبا ہوا آیا اصغر کا جنازہ، اے مومنو جب خون میں ڈوبا ہوا آیا اصغر کا جنازہ، شبیر نے رو رو کے کلیجے سے لگایا اصغر کا جنازہ، اے مومنو خیمے کی طرف روتے ہوئے آئے شہیدی شرمندہ و غمگی، خیمے کی طرف روتے ہوئے آئے شہیدی شرمندہ و غمگین اس یاس سے منہ پھیر کے بانو کو دکھایا اشک کا جنازہ اے مومنو بے شیر کی میت پہ جو زینب نے نظر کی رو رو کے یہ بولی بے شیر کی میت پہ جو زینب نے نظر کی رو رو کے یہ بولی اے بیبیو لو خون میں ڈوبا ہوا آیا اصغر کا جنازہ اے مومنو جب خون میں ڈوبا ہوا آیا اصغر کا جنازہ یا حسین
حسین کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا ستم عباس